My name is Faith Delaney. I'm 39 years old. The reunion was held at my Uncle Gerald's farm in rural Tennessee, the same farm where 4 generations of our family had gathered every summer since before I was born. Long wooden tables stretched across the backfield, covered in red checkered tablecloths, loaded with potato salad, smoked ribs, and sweet tea in mason jars. Kids were running between the oak trees. Old folks were laughing in folding chairs. My grandmother, Aunt Delaney, age 81, was sitting at the head table wearing her Sunday hat like she always did, even on a Saturday. It was the kind of afternoon that felt permanent, like nothing in the world could touch it. Then my Aunt Patricia stood up. Patricia has always been the organizer of the family. The one who sends birthday reminders, plans the reunions, keeps the photo albums. She's energetic in a way that sometimes exhausts people, but you always knew her heart was in the right place. She tapped her glass with a spoon and waited for the noise to settle. When she had everyone's attention, she smiled the biggest smile I had ever seen on her face and announced that she had prepared a special surprise for every single person at the reunion. She said she wanted to give us all something meaningful, something that would connect us to our roots, to our history, to each other. She disappeared behind the refreshment table and came back carrying a large wicker basket. Inside it were envelopes. 23 of them. She said she had ordered DNA ancestry kits for every adult member of the family 6 weeks earlier, collected the samples quietly through the mail, and processed every single result through a genealogy service. She had compiled everything into personalized result summaries and sealed them into individual envelopes. She called it a gift. She said, and I remember her exact words, she said it would be a fun surprise. The family clapped. Some people hooped. My cousin Derek, who is always the loudest person in any room, started chanting her name. It felt like a celebration. It felt exciting and warm and like the kind of memory you tell your own children about someday. Patricia began walking around the table, handing out the envelopes one by one, calling each person's name like she was presenting awards. People were tearing them open immediately, laughing at their percentages, arguing over who had the most Scots-Irish blood, comparing results across the table. My grandmother held hers up to the light like she couldn't quite read it, and my cousin Marlene leaned over to help her. I opened mine and read through it. Mostly what I expected, a blend of English and Irish heritage with a small percentage of Scandinavian that nobody could explain, but everyone found amusing. Then I looked up. My mother, Carol Delaney, age 64, was sitting directly across the table from me. She had opened her envelope. She was holding the paper in both hands. Her face had gone completely white, the kind of white that doesn't come from cold or tiredness, but from shock so deep it empties a person from the inside out. She wasn't blinking. She wasn't moving. The noise of the reunion continued around her, but she had gone somewhere else entirely, somewhere quiet and terrible. I watched her eyes travel slowly across the table to my father. My father, Robert Delaney, age 67, a man I had never once seen look small in my entire life, a man who coached my Little League team, who carried me on his shoulders at parades, who gave the most confident toast at my wedding, was staring at the floor. Not at his envelope. Not at my mother. At the floor. And in that moment, before a single word had been spoken, before anyone else at the table had even noticed what was happening, something in my chest understood that the next few minutes were going to change everything. Not just for me. For all of us. The next 7 minutes destroyed 40 years of lies. Nobody else saw it happen at first. That is the cruelest part of it, the way a family can be sitting at the same table, laughing, passing food, arguing about football, while 2 people at that exact table are quietly coming apart at the seams. Patricia was still moving around the perimeter, still handing out envelopes, still glowing with the satisfaction of someone who believes they have done something wonderful. The kids were still running. My grandmother was still squinting at her paper. And my parents were sitting 6 feet apart from each other, locked in a silence so heavy it had its own gravity. I was the first one to notice, because I was looking directly at my mother when the color left her face. I said her name. She didn't respond. I said it again, louder, and my father's jaw tightened. My cousin Marlene looked up from my grandmother's paper. My Uncle Gerald stopped mid-sentence. One by one, the table began to go quiet the way a room goes quiet when someone drops something, not all at once but in a spreading wave. My mother set the paper down on the table very carefully, like it was fragile, like it might break if she wasn't gentle with it. Then she looked at my father again and she said 4 words. She said, "This doesn't make sense." My father picked up his own envelope. He had not opened it yet. He turned it over in his hands once and then set it back down without opening it. And that single action told me everything. Because a man who is confused opens the envelope. A man who already knows what's inside does not. My mother's DNA results showed that her children, meaning me and my younger brother Thomas, did not share the expected genetic relationship with the paternal lineage that the Delaney family tree would require. The report flagged an inconsistency. It was worded in the careful, clinical language of science, but what it meant in plain English was impossible to misunderstand. The man listed as our father on our birth certificates was not our biological father. Thomas, who had been sitting at the far end of the table arguing with our cousin about something completely trivial, slowly registered that the energy at the center table had shifted. He walked over. He picked up my mother's paper. He read it. And then he looked at our father, at Robert Delaney, the man who had raised us, coached us, held us, shaped us, and he asked out loud the question that nobody else had the courage to say. He said, "Dad, is there something you need to tell us?" The table was completely silent now. 23 people. Not one sound except the wind moving through the oak trees at the edge of the field. My father looked up from the floor. His eyes were red. I had seen my father cry exactly once in my life, at his own mother's funeral, and even then it was only for a moment before he composed himself. But sitting at that table, surrounded by every living branch of a family tree that had just been quietly uprooted, he didn't even try to hold it back. He said he had known since before I was born. He said my mother had told him the truth before they got married. He said he had chosen us anyway. He said, and I want you to understand that these words are going to live inside me for the rest of my life. He said that choosing us was the easiest decision he ever made, and that he had never once regretted it, and that nothing printed on a piece of paper was ever going to change what we were to each other. My mother was crying. Thomas was crying. Patricia, standing a few feet away with her empty wicker basket, looked like she wanted to disappear into the ground. There is a biological father somewhere whose name I still do not know. That is a door I have not yet decided whether to open. But I know this, Robert Delaney built every memory I have of safety and love and belonging. DNA did not give me that. He did. Some secrets are kept to protect the people who hold them. Some secrets are carried for 40 years by 2 people who made a private decision in the early days of a young marriage and then spent 4 decades honoring it quietly together. I am not saying what they did was right. I am not saying Patricia did anything wrong by trying to give our family a gift. I am saying that the truth, when it finally surfaces, does not always destroy what it touches. Sometimes it just asks you to look more carefully at what love actually means. If this story moved you or made you think, please subscribe to this channel. There are more real stories like this one, and every single one of them is worth your time.